Good evening, Abundant Life Church small groups. My name is Pastor Jared Pollard. I'm the worship pastor here at Abundant Life Church, and I am very excited to get to share tonight's teaching with you. We've started a new series for Advent in this Christmas season, and this week's focus is hope. Hope is an exciting thing to talk about, but it can also be a hard thing to talk about because it usually means that we're going through difficult times. And as I was thinking about this topic, I was just thinking about my wife and I and the times in our lives where we were dealing with hope. We had things that were unfulfilled, dreams that we didn't feel like were coming to pass, expectations of life that just weren't measuring up to what we thought they were supposed to be. And that leads to how we're going to talk about this tonight, and that is how to have hope against hope. The key circumstance that I often think of when I think about hope in my wife and I's life is when we were hoping for a child. We waited a long time in our infertility journey, where you have the monthly disappointment of, we think that we're pregnant and we want a child and then it doesn't happen. And that's difficult. And we had to get to a place in our relationship with each other and our relationship with God where we had hope against hope. Eventually, as you guys will see on Sunday services, we have a little girl, and we actually have another little girl on the way now. But right after we had our hope fulfilled, we were sitting on the couch with our newborn baby girl and watching the movie Cars. And today we're going to talk about hope in the context of the movie Cars. Lightning McQueen had no hope. He had no hope when he was lost on good old Route 66 in Radiator Springs. And so I'm just flexing my dad knowledge here right now as I'm talking about this cartoon. But Lightning McQueen was lost. He had no hope. He had to make it to the Piston Cup, and he didn't have Mac, his truck driver, there with him. And he's surrounded by all these people who seemed like good people, but just could not offer him the help that he wanted. But if you watch the movie, he goes from having no hope to becoming a source of hope, which we're going to talk about at the end. So many of us might be in the Lightning McQueen phase right now, where we're surrounded by people that are well-intentioned, but we just don't feel like they're really helping us along the path that we're supposed to go. And that might be you, okay? We'll just say it right now. That might be you. What we're going to do, we're going to look at this passage. This is Psalm 22, verses 1 through 5. Let's read this together. It says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but I find no rest. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel, and you our fathers trusted. They trusted, and you delivered them. To you they cried and were rescued, and you they trusted and were not put to shame. So, Lightning McQueen, he's lost in Radiator Springs. He's yelling, my God, why have you forsaken me? I'm not sure that Lightning McQueen is a good comparison to Jesus, as my cameraman is laughing here in the background. But that's the situation that is being revealed here. And so really what we're going to look at is this passage reveals a process, and we're just going to use Lightning McQueen as our example to make this a little more lighthearted. So Lightning McQueen is feeling hopeless. He's lost. He's yelling, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but I find no rest. You might be in that situation right now where you have no hope. You feel all alone. You have people around you, but it's not making a difference. And what I want to tell you right now is that it's okay, because it's just part of the process. It's not your destination. And the enemy's biggest tool in your life right now is to convince you that hopelessness is your destination. But it's just a part of the process. So you might be in that process where you feel hopeless. You might recognize the words that we just read from Psalm 22 as what Jesus said on the cross. You might be in that position, but good news, it's just part of the process. Here's the second part of the process. When we are feeling hopeless, we have to remember who our God is. So, in the passage, Psalm 22, verse 3, it says, "Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel." It's just a short little sentence, but it packs a lot of punch because it is remembering, God, you are holy. You are high and lifted up. You are above all things. I'm not sure who the God figure would be in the movie Cars. I guess maybe that'd be the Hudson Hornet. Maybe he's the God figure here. But so you find yourself in this position of hopelessness. It's good to remember who God is. Practically, what does that look like? Testimonies. Think over your own life. You know, the devil will try to get you to forget what the Lord has done for you in your past. You can find testimonies on the YouVersion Bible app. You can find testimonies. The best place to find testimonies is where you're at right now in your small group. You can find testimonies on Sunday morning. There's all these different places, and you remember who God is. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. And once you remember who He is in charge. He is the King of Kings. He is the Prince of Peace. He is ruling and reigning right now. Once you remember that, then you can remember all that He has done. In you, this is verse 4 of Psalm 22, in you our fathers trusted. They trusted and you delivered them. To you they cried and were rescued. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. I love that last statement. And you they trusted and they were not put to shame. They weren't disappointed. They weren't left out to dry. And so you have this process, and sometimes you go through this process a few times in your life, but the important thing is to make sure that you remember that the feeling of hopelessness is not the destination. It's just the part of the process. And you can make this such a common practice. Sometimes in certain situations, I find myself doing this daily, where I'll feel hopeless about something. I'm like, oh, who's in charge? I'm not in charge. God is in charge. And it's good that God is in charge, because these are the things that I know that He has done for me. And that gives me hope to continue forward. So, back to our Lightning McQueen illustration. There's a couple of key moments in the movie that I want to talk about. When you're feeling hopeless, our human nature wants us to withdraw. We want to get out of the situation, fight or flight. There's no more fight left. It is flight. Get out. Get away from people, get away from your circumstance, get away from your job, get away from your family. You want to get out. But the answer is not to get out, it's to lean in. So just like the Hudson Hornet taught Lightning McQueen to turn into the curve, it feels backwards. It feels like what you're not supposed to do. He turned into that curve, and what happened is it brought him around the bend and then made sure he was positioned correctly to move forward. When we lean into God, and this was something that was spoken to my wife and I when we were feeling hopeless, from an obscure passage, Genesis chapter 23, Isaac was told to sow into the famine. He leaned in when everybody else was pulling back. And when you lean in, what you're doing is you're completing this last statement that we read in verse 5. In you I trust, Lord, and I will not be put to shame. You lean in. And the statement that I said earlier is Lightning McQueen went from having no hope to being a source of hope. And this is where it comes back to my wife and I watching this movie with our newborn child. Now, to be granted, we weren't sleeping much at this point. I was sleeping more than my wife, but we still weren't sleeping very much. And so we're watching Cars, and we got to the scene where, and sorry if you've never seen Cars before, I've ruined the entire plot. Lightning McQueen pushes the king across the finish line instead of taking first himself. And my wife and I burst into tears. I've never cried at a kid's movie in my entire life, but we just burst into tears watching this because Lightning McQueen went from having no hope to then being the source of hope. And that's the ultimate end of this process, is we go from being hopeless, we remember who God is, we remember what He's done, and then we now can be the source of hope for others around us by sharing the things that God has done in our lives and what He can accomplish in theirs. So maybe you're feeling hopeless right now. I want you to lean in, because Jesus on the cross didn't shy away from what from what God was leading him as the Lord to do. He didn't shy away. He leaned in and he completed the process. And so we can lean in right now with our small groups. We can be vulnerable and we can ask the Holy Spirit to work in our hearts. Maybe you're in small group right now and you don't know Jesus. Your small group leader is equipped and ready to lead you to him right now. And these questions hopefully will help with that. So lean in. Jesus is our living hope. And it's when in trying times and when things are lean and when things are difficult that he can become the most real to us. So take a look at these discussion questions, and leaders, don't be afraid of some Jesus encounters that might happen in this moment as people find Jesus, their living hope. Love you guys and hope you have a great night.